put their cultural values and biological characteristics at the top of the racial order, and blacks at the bottom, beneath Caucasians and Mongols, Asians. All the major European religious denominations at the time used the Bible to teach racial ranking with implicit black inferiority. During the civil rights movements of the 1950s and 60s, the concept of biological races was intentionally expanded to include cultural, religious, ethnic, and all Spanish speaking language groups which were competing with black people for rights, space, and privileges. The concept of race was then diluted to an attitudinal level, and the term racism was used interchangeably with such terms as bias, prejudice, bigotry, and discrimination. Now the term racism has become so amorphous that it has little meaning and is applied to all so-called minorities. If Black Americans are to resolve and reverse the legacies of slavery, they must view and treat racism based upon its original meaning and intent. So basically, Dr. Anderson is saying here in Powernomics on page 5 that that basically you had race and the term race and racism and all that sort of diluted. It's become diluted to pretty much mean anybody who's not a white man, right? So the next chapter, or next section is called Racism, a Race Without a Finish Line. So again, Powernomics, page 5. We just started the book. We're on chapter 1, and you can get a copy of the book at powernomics.com. So I hope that you'll go get copies of the book, maybe for the holidays, give them away to your relatives as gifts. When my wife and I got married, we gave away copies of Powernomics at our wedding. So remember, each one teach one, I think, is an important concept for the community. So as you're learning from me, I hope that you'll give something back by giving that knowledge to other people. Everybody in here is being qualified and trained to become a teacher. That's what you're becoming by learning these things that 99% of our kids don't learn in school. Okay. So give me a yes in the chat if you agree that you're going to go and teach these concepts to others as you learn them. Please, please say that you're going to do that, because we have to do this, right? We have to be the ones who take over our educational process, because y'all know white folks ain't going to teach you this stuff, nor should they. If I was a white man, I would have zero interest in teaching black people the things they need to know in order to be free. It is not my job as a white man to free a black man, because he's a man just like me. It's his job to take care of his family. It's my job to take care of mine. Okay, so I need you to take care of your people by making sure that you feed them with knowledge. Got it? Okay, thank you for your confirmation. Let's keep reading. Racism is a wealth and power-based competitive relationship between blacks and non-blacks. The sole purpose of racism is to support and ensure that the white majority and its ethnic subgroups continue to dominate and use blacks as a means to control wealth and power. So he says racism is wealth and power based. It's competition. And it's between black people and people who are not black. So they pretty much have everybody on that side against you, right? And the goal is to do what they did to Africa, right? And remember, you guys mentioned, some of y'all mentioned in the chat, where they had that conference in Europe where all the European nations got together, put Africa on the map, and they said, how are we going to chop this sucker up and share the plunder, right? So ultimately, for you have a stiff kind of competition. This is going to be tough, right? This is a tough battle. So at the very least, you have to be able to close ranks and develop and establish sovereignty to ensure that at the very least, you are the primary beneficiary of all the wealth that you create through your labor, through your creativity, through your athletes. All that has to stay with you. So he also says that racism, so there's two terms right here, right? So race, wealth and power-based competitive relationship between blacks and non-blacks. You have to remember that. That's going to be a theme throughout the book. Racism is a process. It's an ism, right? Designed to ensure that white people are able to control black people, that non-black people are able to control, or he says the white majority and ethnic subgroups continue to dominate and use blacks as a means to produce wealth and power. Okay, that it's very important that you start thinking about racism that way, so that we can get away from talking about racism as if it's just something that hurts your feelings. Let's get past that. They're not going to pay you your reparations based on how you feel. They pay you reparations based on what they owe and what you demand. If you don't demand it and you can't explain to them why they owe it, then to hell with your feelings. They're going to say, well, we need you to just feel a different way. Okay, so let's keep going. Centuries of black enslavement and Jim Crow semi-slavery resulted in the majority society becoming 99-foot giants and blacks becoming 1-foot midgets. This massive inequality in wealth and resources made blacks non-competitive and totally dependent upon whites for the necessities of life. You can't survive without white people. They stop supporting you, you die. You don't have hospitals. You can't grow your own food. You die. You can't even educate yourself in the eyes of many. I believe you can, but there are a lot of people who don't believe we can. So he says, in America, it is whites who use wealth and power to marginalize. Wait, so let me back up. True racism exists only when one group holds a disproportionate share of wealth and power over another group, then uses those resources to marginalize, exploit, exclude, and subordinate the weaker group. In America, it is whites who use wealth and power to marginalize, exploit, and subordinate blacks. Whites can deny blacks employment, educational opportunities, business resources, a place to live, or the right to vote. Did he mention food? The ability to eat. The ability to eat. That should have been included too, right? Therefore, according to this definition, black people cannot be racist, collectively speaking, right? No group of blacks has the power or exclusive control of resources to the degree that they can educationally, politically, economically, and socially exploit and marginalize the white race. Blacks can only react to racism and try to alter the conditions that racism creates. Despite the realities, there are numerous conservative blacks who act as apologists for white racism and confuse the issue. A conservative black radio talk show host in Los Angeles, for example, charges that blacks are as racist as whites. His desire for white approval, as well as his ignorance of history, impedes him from understanding that white racism and black prejudice are not the same thing. Blacks have a reason for their feelings about whites based on how they have been treated by whites. The white race, on the other hand, has never been marginalized by the black race. Racism reinforces the legacies of slavery and Jim Crow semi-slavery. Blacks have been unable to escape from those legacies because the majority society acknowledges the operation of racism in the distant past, but minimizes its present significance. All right, so we're on page 6. Powernomics, Dr. Claude Anderson, powernomics.com is where you can get a copy. The burdens of inequality. The concept of race has progressed from the international competition for wealth and power to religious doctrine to biological classification to a personal attitude. Yet conditions and opportunities are unequal between competing minority groups. There has been no equal sharing of burdens in our equal opportunity society. Members of ethnic, class, gender, disabled, religious, Spanish language, and sexual orientation groups have not been treated in a manner equal to blacks. This nation has never enacted and supported public policies and laws that have denied non-blacks access to this nation's educational, political, social, and economic systems. These groups have not been customarily lynched, castrated, exploited, and denied the fruits of their labor. Blacks are the only group of people forced to practice capitalism without capital in the richest and most capitalist nation on earth. These facts, coupled with the majority society's total unwillingness to approve corrective action and reparations for descendants of black slaves, reveals the true nature of racism against black people. Racism and other legacies of slavery predetermined the success of black Americans as a group. One of the most glaring examples of inherited inequalities is wealth distribution. Black America's percentage ownership of the nation's wealth remains where it was in the 1860s on the eve of the Civil War. At that time, when nearly every black person in America was either in full or semi-slavery, blacks owned 0.5% of this nation's wealth. The emancipation of enslaved blacks in no sense rendered social or economic recompense. Today, more than 140 years later, we are 100% free, air quotes, yet black Americans still own only 0.5% of this nation's wealth. Today, the income of blacks as compared to whites has regressed to the level that it was at the end of the 1960s. Apparently, 38% of the black population is beneath the poverty line, and another 1/3 is marginal, just above the poverty line. The limited assets that black Americans most often have, such as automobiles and personal effects, depreciate rather than appreciate in value. Blacks even find that our homes, usually our most valuable assets, have a limited market and prices are dictated by urban renewal, expressways, or gentrification. The average Black person passes on zero assets to future generations. The typical white family is more economically stable and secure. Approximately 87% of this nation's economic assets are now frozen within the dominant white society and are passed on from one generation to the next in such forms as stocks, bonds, land, businesses, trust accounts, endowments, foundations, and insurance policies. Therefore, white children are privileged to enter the world with 87% of the resources that they need to succeed in life already in their families, race, communities, businesses, schools, governments, or social organizations. Thus, succeeding generations of whites can access these wealth resources over and over again. Let's take a moment and digest what I just read here. So, the first point he makes here is that literally, again, all this progress you've made, all these people constantly telling you how much better it is than it used to be, how great America is and how much progress we've made as Joe Biden's up there passing anti-lynching bills when ain't nobody out here asking for no anti-lynching bill, right? All this progress you've allegedly made has occurred when there's been no progress in how much wealth you own. They will give you every ounce of symbolism. They will give you crack pipes. They will give you ridiculous legislation. They will give you feel-good moments. They will give you rap concerts. They will give you everything you ask for as long as you don't ask about the money. When you start talking about the money, that's when they start getting concerned because you're not acting like children anymore. You're trying to be grown-ups. And that's one of the reasons why, when we were talking earlier about my sadness with what happened with Will Smith and Chris Rock, is that I don't like seeing 50-something-year-old men acting like children because America is a society that wants to keep the Black man in a non-threatening position where he is either a little boy or a little girl. They want to keep him as a child or a clown. That's why in society, the Black men that typically that rise to the highest levels tend to be athletes. They tend to be entertainers. They tend to tell jokes. Those are the guys that tend to rise up the ranks. So when Black men sit down and want to negotiate as grown men, then suddenly there's a concern. People get upset, right? And the reason they don't want that is because a grown man will sit down and say, I don't really care if you like me. I don't need your validation. I don't need you to tell me Black Lives Matter. I just need you to cut that damn check. And at that point, we can be friends. But if you can't cut the check, then I'm not doing nothing for you because I don't need nothing that you're offering me because you're not giving me what I actually want. Let's keep going. He says, what is wealth? Wealth refers to the net value of a person, group, or community less their liabilities or debt at a given point in time. It is stored value. Income, in contrast, refers to a flow of dollars over a period of time. With rare exceptions, most Blacks are so marginalized that they own and control little wealth or resources anywhere, including their own neighborhoods. How about that? Ain't that something? I mean, I need y'all to really, let's meditate on that point for a minute. Let's meditate. How many millions of Black people live in neighborhoods where you don't even own the damn neighborhood? You don't even own, and you had, the gang stuff going on, people dying over their block and don't even own the block. I mean, you got to really process that for a minute. I mean, can you imagine Jewish people living in neighborhoods where they own nothing in the neighborhood? Do you know how vulnerable that makes you? Like you're literally living on ice skates. Like you're not planted in anything. You're literally living on ice skates and it's thin ice. They can move you around, they can slap you around, they can evict you anytime, they can raise the rent, get you out of there so they can displace you. Seriously, that's what they do. That's what they did. The gentrification was just the displacement of Black people. It's no different from what they did with Native Americans. They just came in and said, get out. We want the land back now. So you got to go. And we were defenseless to fight against that. So in the tradition of us as a collective coming up with solutions, you got to educate your children on those things. You must build assets for your kids. You must build assets for your children. If you go to, let me see, I'm trying to remember. Go to blackmoneyminute.com. You guys know I do my Black Money Minutes. You go to blackmoneyminute.com. There's a copy of a short little ebook I wrote called the $5 a Day Investment Plan. That is a simple plan that if you follow this basic plan that anybody can follow and you stick with the plan, your children will not be pushed around so easily. It's like football. If you have some weight on your bones and a guy hits you, he can't push you around as easy because you got some weight on you. But if you're light and you're not heavy and you're trying to be an offensive lineman, they're going to run right over you. Well, your kids need to have some weight on them. Weight is the things that dig you into the ground, that gives you roots. Weight means I got wealth. I own this house. I own some assets. So you can't push me out of my neighborhood because I own this part of the block. You can't push me around politically and socially because I own stocks and bonds and businesses and I got secondary streams of income. So I'm not scared of you, right? So the question is, are your kids are they going to be heavyweights or are they going to be lightweights? It is up to you to decide what kind of person they're going to be. So to me, a heavyweight would be a heavyweight in terms of asset ownership. You've been investing for that child since they're a baby. So your daughter is not going to go date some asshole just because he helps her come up with $500 to pay the rent. She's not going to do that because she's got economic weight. Your son's not going to be out here scared to death and cooning it up so that he can keep a stupid job that he hates because he's going to have weight. He's got assets. He's got things backing him up. Also, what's another type of weight? Well, I think intellectual weight, meaning skill set, necessary skills that a Black person needs to survive and succeed in this country. If I have intellectual weight, that means that I am able to figure out how to survive even if you blackball me from the job. I don't care because guess what? I have intellectual weight. I got a whole PhD. I ain't scared of none of y'all. Right? I can go and find a way to make a way. So your children have to have intellectual weight. That means that before you teach them how to twerk, you teach them how to read. Before you teach them how to dribble a basketball, you teach them how to start a business. Before they start learning how to play sports and tell jokes and bust raps, you're teaching them how to sit down and write articles if they have to do that. You're teaching them how to manipulate and move their assets around. You're teaching them Black history. You're giving them that intellectual weight. It's hard to stop a rich, smart Black man. Right? Then the third piece of weight that you give them is you got to give them some damn courage. Too many of these Black men ain't got no testicles attached to their body. Too many of these so-called prominent Black women are so busy trying to get validation from other people that they're completely spineless. Completely spineless. They get these. When I was at University of Kentucky, I remember we used to laugh every time they would hire somebody who was the new director of diversity. And they would say, oh, this is a new person who's going to advocate for the Black people. We would just laugh because we knew that whoever they picked to be the head of diversity, y'all know what I'm talking about. Tell me if you know what I'm talking about. Whoever they picked as the head of diversity was not going to be out here really fighting for Black people. That person's going to be carrying water for white people, trying to get us to go along with whatever BS they were trying to drop onto us. That's what their job was. Right? So you got too many people that have no weight, right? Too many lightweights in the community. They're economically weak because nobody prepared a foundation for them. They're intellectually weak because nobody trained them with the vital skills. They didn't get a proper education. Some of them got master's degrees, MBAs, PhDs, but they didn't get a proper education because nobody taught them the skills that they needed to survive. If you went to Harvard and you still can't get a job because nobody taught you how to start a business, then your Harvard degree ain't worth a nickel in my mind. I'm sorry. I know you might have went and studied English literature or ancient Roman history, but right now they're pushing you around because they know that you need that job. And then also we have lightweights because we don't know who the hell we are. We don't learn our history. White people are never going to teach Black people Black history. They shouldn't be teaching you your history. Do they let you teach their history to them? Is a Jewish guy going to really let me tell him what it means to be Jewish? That would be absurd. That would be absurd. So never accept something from them that they would not accept from you. That's equality. That's equality. Equality means if you ask me to do something that you should be willing to do for me what I do for you. Or equality means that if I'm gonna let you have something, take something from me, then I should be able to take the same thing from you. So equality means, like, okay, you're asking me to vote for you just because. Well, that means you should be supporting me just because. But it's stupid. It's like they expect loyalty from you, but they don't give you loyalty back. That ain't equality. Let me keep going. All right, page 7, chapter 1, Powernomics. That's the name of the book. You can get a copy at powernomics.com. So Dr. Anderson says here, the ancestors of enslaved blacks were forced to concentrate simply on surviving, pursuing civil rights, and integration. They had little to bequeath to their descendants. Even though they succeeded in their social and civil rights efforts, their children cannot inherit welfare, food stamps, public housing, or a good job. So none of those things are part of your inheritance. That company that you've been working for 30 years, that belongs to somebody else. So he says 3 major impediments to black competitiveness. This is good. I want us to dissect this. This will be our last segment before we're done saying, because I don't want to have us. This is heavy stuff, so I don't want to do too much in one sitting. So I keep these book club meetings to an hour for that reason. Because I don't know about y'all, when I get done, I'm emotionally exhausted. My voice is gone, and I'm feeling emotional because this is real. This is the realest stuff I've ever read in my life. Like, this is like, okay, this is what I've been looking for in terms of understanding what's really going on and understanding and hearing a plan that really makes sense. So when I'm reading this to you, some of this I might be reading for the first time. I've read big chunks of these books, but I read it with you because I wanted to make sure I went through it in extreme detail. So the 3 major impediments to black competitiveness. Regardless of how fast and how high black Americans jump, without proportional wealth, ownership, and control of resources, it is nearly impossible for blacks to play the game of capitalism, and even more difficult for them to win. Why can't blacks win? Let's examine 3 major impediments to black self-sufficiency and competitiveness. So the 3 impediments are: 1, the maldistribution of wealth and resource powers. That is due to what white folks did. That's the politicians that don't want to share the money. Number 2, inappropriate behavioral patterns. That's you inheriting and embracing generational curses that you know are downright toxic. Seriously. Like cheering on a 53-year-old man at the Oscars who punches another 57-year-old black man when they almost 60, acting like children. That's weird to me. I'm sorry. I'm not co-signing on that nonsense. Number 3, a lack of a national plan for empowerment. You must have a plan. Like Dr. Anderson said with the Alice in Wonderland example at the beginning of this chapter, the Cheshire Cat said, I think Alice said, which way should I go? The Cheshire Cat said, well, where do you want to go? She said, I don't know. He said, then it don't matter which way you go, because you're going to lose regardless, because you ain't got a plan. So in your areas of your life that matter to you, do you have a plan? If you love your children and they matter to you, what is your plan for your children? If you love yourself, what is your plan for yourself? How many of y'all love the black community? Say yes if you love the black community. If you love the black community, what is our plan for the black community? You have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. You can't win a war without a plan. So I like this layout. He says, look, we can talk about what white folks did, and the liberals can talk. They talk about that too. They talk about the laws and the unfairness, and sometimes they'll even talk about the maldistribution of wealth. That's great, but they don't talk about number 2 and number 3. They don't talk about the inappropriate behavior. They don't. There are people out there that, because they put black people in a wheelchair, they treat you like you're disabled, like you're children, like you have no self-determination. They back up when it's time to hold ourselves accountable and to say, well, what can we do? I've never met a white man who told me I couldn't sit down and read a book. I didn't need a white man's permission to decide, you know what, boys, I'm going to get off my ass, and instead of watching Netflix tonight, on Wednesday nights, I'm going to get together with other black people. We're going to read copies of Powernomics. Like, I did that. I didn't need white people to tell me I can do this. So inappropriate behavior patterns and a lack of a national plan. Well, there are several plans. If you want some examples of plans, number 1, If you go to boycewatkins.com, or you just look for the thing where I give away the stock tips, the stock information, you can get a copy of my book, the $5 a day investing plan. I'm sorry, blackmoneyminute.com, blackmoneyminute.com. That's where the $5 a day plan book is located. That's a very basic plan that I, as a finance PhD, can tell you will work in terms of getting you elevated above any type of economic situation that you're in. If you follow that plan, your economic problems are gone for the most part, as long as you don't do anything crazy. Secondly, inappropriate behavior. The reality is that we have so much inappropriate behavior in our families. We have so much dysfunction. We just ride with that dysfunction, and we embrace that like that's Black culture, like that's just what it means to be Black. I think you got to question everything. I think you have to question everything. And when I try to summarize it and think about what does it mean to have a better life, I tend to go back to three key areas that determine quality of life: health, wealth, and relationships. Your physical and mental health, your wealth levels, financial security, and your relationships with yourself and relationships with each other. Those three things are connected, because you can't build wealth. If you build wealth and you're not healthy, you're going to lose all your wealth trying to get your health back. The hospitals and the doctors are going to take all your money. If you build wealth and you don't think about your relationships, well, you're going to lose all your money because you're going to marry some crazy gold digger who's going to take you to court and take all your money, right? Or you're going to marry some ridiculous man who's going to mess up your credit and mess up the family finances because all you're thinking about is how nice his penis is, or whatever it is you're thinking. I'm sorry if you got children. I apologize. I didn't mean to say that word, but y'all know what I'm talking about, right? So ultimately, health, wealth, and relationships. So when you're talking about Black success, I encourage you to start with those three areas: health, wealth, and relationships. How do I make sure I have that my mental and physical health is right? Well, okay, as a Black person, that means that I can't go and I can't follow the predetermined path, right? They have a little Negro path that they put everybody on, and millions of our people follow the Negro path, which leads to death, chaos, destruction, and absolute economic ruin. So the Negro path, when it comes to health, physical health, is to eat whatever trashy, greasy, fatty food they're promoting in Black neighborhoods. They'll put the singers on TV that tell you that obesity is a good thing. They have you going to Popeye's chicken. You're eating all this stuff that's going to kill you at an early age, and then you internalize that as Black culture. You start thinking that it's just Black culture, that Big Mama's gonna get her foot cut off because she's gonna get diabetes, she's gonna get heart disease, because that's just what happens when you're Black, right? Again, because you're not critically thinking about the Negro path that they put you on in terms of the food that you eat, right? But if you're an intelligent Black person, you stop and you say, hey, wait a minute. If I keep eating this stuff, I'm going to die. And my family's going to die. This isn't good. So some of you have made conscious decisions to say, I don't know, maybe you've gone vegan, or maybe you're just monitoring what you eat, or maybe you're exercising more, right? So you've gotten off that path, right? I congratulate you for that. When it comes to mental health, to me, the typical Negro path is that being Black just means you're going to be traumatized from the time you're born to the time you die. When you are a baby, you're going to get traumatized because Uncle Willie going to go to prison. Your daddy ain't going to be there when you're little. Your older brother's going to get shot on his way to school. You're going to go to school and you have to fight all the other girls because some girl's mad because her boyfriend likes you. You don't even know the dude. You don't even know this guy. But because her boyfriend thinks you cute, the girl's trying to fight you after school, and you're dealing with all this chaos that comes with Blackness. We eat each other alive. We hate the shit out of each other, right? You know what I'm talking about when we really get in our worst element, right? So the Negro path is complete chaos. It is division. It is broken families. It is broken relationships. It is children growing up without a mother and a father. It is Black men trying to murder each other on sight. It is Black women hating each other just because you're cute, right? It's all of that, right? It's Black people not being able to come together to do anything because that's the Negro path, dysfunction. That's Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch. You were taught that in slavery. That's how they kept you enslaved. You got to divide them. You got to make them hate each other, right? That's the mental health on the Negro path. But the intelligent Black people path says, no, I'm done with all of that. I'm done with all of that. We all deal. I told y'all 4 years ago. I don't know if y'all remember it. If you've been watching me for a while, you know what I'm talking about. I told y'all 4 years ago, I said, I'm done fighting with Black people. I'm not going to fight with Black people on the internet. So that means when people come at me throwing darts in my head and I hate Boyce and Boyce this and Boyce that, I'm not doing that with you. I done left. I've moved to Mars. I'm leaving that planet. I'm not participating in any of this dysfunction with you. And then on top of that, when you're talking about the intelligent black people path, and when I talk about intelligent, I'm not talking about how much education you have. You may not even be that smart yet. It's okay. The fact that you're even listening to this makes me commend you. I'm very proud of you for even hearing this, hearing me out on this. But to me, an intelligent black person says, you know what? I think I want to get therapy because I am high on the trauma scale. There's something my wife taught me about called the ACEs test. It stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And I took the ACEs test, and my wife said, your score for trauma is really high. And that might be why you get triggered. So, you know what I did? I said, you know what? I'm going to invest. I don't just invest in stocks and bonds and real estate, I invest in therapy because I want to show up as the best black man I can be. I want to be the best man I can be for my family, the best man I can be for you, the best man I can be for myself, the best man I can be for my legacy, the best man I can be for my community, the best man I can be for my kids. I don't want to show up as a black man who is causing other people to need therapy because I've traumatized them so much. A lot of you go through that. The men are very powerful. We are a force. We are juggernauts in our household. And if you take that power and you're not conscious about what you do with that power, you can ruin the lives of a lot of people, or you can improve the lives of a lot of people, right? So that's the mental health. That's the intelligent black people path. Let's go to relationships. Okay, what's the Negro path in relationships? Well, the Negro path definitely consists of lots and lots of single parents and lots of fathers paying child support. I'm not making fun of you in that category because I paid 18 years of child support. It was very painful. I probably spent more in child support than NASA spends in a year trying to send rocket ships to Mars. Okay, so believe me, I get it. I understand that. But seriously, the Negro path of relationships means broken families. It means you get together long enough to make a baby, but you're not long enough to raise that child to the age of 18. A lot of us either have experienced that, are going through that, or we were raised by that. We think that is being black. Again, we internalize that and we believe, oh, this must be black culture. Oh, you had two parents. Well, you ain't black, right? I asked one of the young ladies I mentor, I said, how many of your friends have a mother and a father in the house? And she said, none of them. She has 20 friends. She said none of them. She's like, no, no, no. Her mama, that's her mama's boyfriend. Right? Literally, that none of them have their father in the house. And so you talk again. Let's keep going down that rabbit hole. The Negro path of relationships means black men are threatened by each other, killing each other. Right? A lot of black men are killed by other black men. Y'all know this. They're killed by cops, sure, but they're also killed by other black men. And that is that you maybe you don't want to label it as black on black crime. Fine, let's not get political. But when your baby done got shot by somebody who happens to be black, it's very disappointing and very hurtful. You don't feel less hurt just because it wasn't a cop. So you have that. You have a lot of the dysfunction between black men and black women. You see a lot of it popping up on the internet. You have a whole manosphere of men that just have a disdain, disgust for black women. Just black women, these black big blankety blanks, they need to get put in their place. And I'm glad that somebody told that chick off, da da da. And then you have the women that literally start comparing black men to white men. They talk about black men like we are the scum of the absolute earth, right? And a lot of that is linked to the fact that when they grew up, their father disappointed them. So they grew up hating black men for the rest of their life, some of them, because they never took the time to get therapy. So that's the Negro path. The Negro path is man against woman, old against young. Young people ain't got no respect for old people. Old people ain't listening to the young people. Black men mad at each other. Black women ain't sticking together for nothing. That's the Negro path. The intelligent black people path is to say, no, we're better together. I'm not going to be better off if I go marry a white woman, right? Or a black woman. No, that Meghan Markle is not getting an upgrade because she married a redhead white boy over in London, right? We're not celebrating that here. We're not making fun of it, but we're not celebrating that. No, we are stronger when we are together. And my goal, again, because I want to take that intelligent black people path, is I want to form healthy relationships with other black people who are committed to improving our mental health and being strategic and thoughtful in terms of how we deal with each other. I do business with brother Ben X. I supported Hereafter Farms. I made an investment in Hereafter Farms, and I'm publicly stating that I support Hereafter Farms because I like talking to brother Ben X, and I like talking to a black man who wants me to succeed, and I want him to succeed. I mentioned to you Riza Islam, his mother just passed. Rest in power to his mother. And I mentioned that publicly because I acknowledge the fact that this beautiful, amazing black woman created one of the greatest black men in this country. I have so much respect for RZA, and I just love it. Makes me feel good to be around black men who want to see me succeed, who want to see me win, and I want to see them win. And together we win as a group, right? And so the intelligent black people path means getting that therapy, getting that help, learning how to deal with whatever's causing you to have trouble working with other people or getting along with people. The intelligent black man path, in my view, is where I say, no, I'm gonna marry me a black woman. I'm going to do what I can to work through whatever nonsense we got to fight through, and we're going to build a solid family. Like, that's my goal. That's the win for me. The win is not getting away from it all and going and marrying Becky. I'm not going to do that, right? So again, so we talk about health, wealth, and relationships. Well, what's the Negro path when it comes to wealth? Well, the Negro path when it comes to, y'all know wealth is my thing, right? That's my PhDs in this stuff, so I can break this down all day, but I'm going to give you the short version. The Negro path of wealth is from the time you're born, you are trained to spend money like a damn fool. You are trained to idolize Gucci and Louis and Cadillacs and all this other stuff that they market to you on TV. The Negro path of wealth is where you are not trained to build wealth. You are trained to go work for white people. Your number one goal in life is to get your dream job. You sitting around dreaming about working for somebody. Like, that's my dream is to work for somebody and not have no money, right? And then you're also, the other Negro path is if you want to get a good job, which is the highest you can go. I mean, you can't actually control anything. The best you can do is be controlled by a powerful person who's paying you lots of money for your slavery, right? So you sell yourself to a higher bidder than the one that would pay you if you didn't have skill and education. So you become a high-paid slave, right? You become a respected slave, right? So ultimately, you go to college, you go deep in debt with student loans, you have no assets left to you by your family because your family didn't even care enough about you to leave you anything, invest for you as a child, or save anything for you. And then you're just kind of out of this world at 28 years old. You got this stupid bachelor's degree in your hand. You got $150,000 in student loan debt, no assets to speak of. And now guess what? You are a slave all over again. The difference now is that you are a corporate slave. A corporate slave is basically a person who is so financially destitute and so deep in debt that they can't afford to quit their job. They don't have to go to work, but they have to go to work. The intelligent black people path is where you understand that economics is a team sport. Again, on the Negro path, you were trying to do everything by yourself, right? So now you're that single mom with the bachelor's degree, the student loan debt, 2 kids, you raise them by yourself, and you're doing it all alone. So everything's a struggle, everything's hard. The intelligent black people path is where the community comes together because we work through our dysfunctions. We prepare our children for the future. We start investing for them when they're children. We also don't put them out here in the workforce with only one skill of only knowing how to look for a job. We teach them how to create a job. We teach them how to make moves financially that are going to get them ahead. What else do we do? Well, we also think carefully about things like student loan debt. You question all the assumptions about things like student loans. Doesn't mean you don't go to college. It just means you think about the amount of debt you're taking on and what the ROI is going to be on that investment, so you can make sure you don't put yourself so far behind that you can't get back into the race. So taking on a little bit of debt is okay. Taking on a lot of debt is not okay unless you're going to be making a ton of money by the time you graduate, right? So you make these moves. You have to question everything. You have to think about things differently if you want to be successful in this world, if you want to be in the place that you want to be. So when he talks about inappropriate behavior patterns, that's what I think about. I think about the inappropriate behavior that we're trained on as children. And believe me, this is all part of a plan. The industrialists, the corporations, the people that are really in power, they only want you to have limited information. They want to show you exactly how you can get in where you fit in a position where you're exploited. I was at Syracuse University teaching the children of millionaires. They were not preparing their children the way a lot of us prepare our children. They were not getting them ready to just go become slaves for somebody else. They were preparing them to control other people's children. So put your kids in a position of power, but you must be conscious about how you do it. Okay. So let me keep reading a little bit, and then we can shut it down for tonight. So he says each of these major impediments is carefully examined and discussed in detail in the next few sections of the book. And And actually, and you know what? I think this is a good place for us to go ahead and stop for the night. So we're going to meet next Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern for the book club. If you want to get the recordings of all the lectures that we've done and all the lectures we do in the future, feel free to become a member, a premium member of the book club. Just go to drboycebookclub.com. All the lectures are there. So if this is your thing, you can sit and listen to all the ones I've done all the way up until this point at drboycebookclub.com. Second of all, the All Black National Convention, we're open to, because you guys are you're the family. You guys are the ones that are here. We're going to turn to you to get ideas on panels you'd like to see, certain speakers you'd like to see. So, in fact, actually, if you email support at theblackbusinessschool.com if you have a recommendation of a speaker or somebody that you think should be at the convention, or an idea for a type of panel. I know that my wife, when she's going to do her speed dating at the convention, she also talked about maybe possibly doing something on child support and kind of the single parent challenge that we have as a community. And so those are some of the things that we're thinking about doing for the convention this year. So we'd love to get your input on how we can really make this a wonderful and exceptional experience for you. Okay, so if you want to get your tickets to the convention, just go to boycewatkins.com. The link should be right there. And that's pretty much it, guys. So I enjoyed talking to you. I hope that you gained something tonight. I hope this was beneficial for you. And don't forget Dr. Colin Anderson's book. You can get a copy at powernomics.com. We're going to pick it up next Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We love you guys, or I love you. We love you. My wife does too. And I'll see you guys soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.